If you want to just say hey so that the software grabs you.
Hi. Hey.
Hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's good to see your face.
Yours too. It's been a while.
It's been a minute. I know I say it all the time, but I love that the stylized version of our meetup
I
story.
know I never like even saw it as romantic as it was when you like actually put it into words. I'm like, that is exactly how we met. Like, how magical.
I don't know if I wrote it in the bio for this meeting, but it was it like uh in the dark in a line waiting
In the middle of
for
the desert.
in the middle of the desert in the middle of the night in line for a pudding food truck, which is all true. It's a little bit ridiculously stylized, but
And
those are
dorking
true
out
to us.
over photo mechanic.
Yeah, I was trying to remember the specifics, and I think it was something to do with when you buy Photo Mechanic and you need to recall a set that wasn't
Yep,
done
it was
there,
recalling. Yep.
how you
How you
how you like
retell Lightroom about it. Yeah.
yeah you move
Update
your camera
Lightroom with
back and
those.
forth.
Yeah.
And I've never
Mm-hmm.
since done that again. But for
Oh,
whatever
I have
reason,
had to do it a million times. And I think you ended up,
whoa,
I think I had to reach back out and you typed it up for me or something. Because I don't use Photo
incredible.
Mechanic anymore, but I had to like go back and reference that many
I hate to
times.
say I still use Photo Mechanic daily, and it sucks because I don't use it the way that it's like that I used to. If it weren't for this one little project, I could completely get rid of it, and it would allow me to like upgrade my computers because I'm stuck on Photo Mechanic 5 because the new Mac update doesn't allow for I'd have to upgrade to Photo Mechanic 6. I'm not going to spend $150 for this one project, which is just
Yeah.
my little personal dailies project. It's just for my
Mm-hmm.
little Fuji camera. I was just snapping pictures of Milo all day, and I use it because for whatever stupid reason, Macs can't see Fuji compressed RAW files. And so in
Oh,
order to go like through the 1,500 pictures I've taken over the last 3 days and grab just today's photos, I have to like drop them into Photo Mechanic, select them, and that's just a pain in the butt to do when you can't
yeah.
see what photos there. So
Yeah.
I don't want to use Photo Mechanic because you don't really need to with the upgrades in
Mm-mm.
Lightroom these
Yeah.
days. But you know, that's where we are. The
Yep.
complicated system of softwares that is the photo industry. So I want to kind of just jump right in because we kind of we got a good crew on, and we're able to have a lot of introductions. But the first right off the bat, the question I ask everybody is if you kind of want to just go over, introduce yourself, give us a sense of like who you are, what you do, what you're known for, and specifically like how you got into photography in the first place. Kind of like why you're here, essentially, why you're in this photo world.
Okay, I'll try to remember everything.
I can rehash it. We can bounce around.
Okay, I'm going to start with myself. So I'm Twyla Jones. I'm a mother. So I have an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 1-year-old. I love plants, and I feel like a lot more people are starting to love plants now, like with this downtime. So I have tons all over the place. I live in kind of, I'll show you my backyard real fast. It's a mess because I have all those kids that there's like a little waterfall back there and lots of cool places to grow things, our little tiny jungle. So I do lots of plants and stuff. I guess that's like my hobby now. And I guess I specialize in more like emotive photography. I'm really into that. I'm really into editing, dorking out over Lightroom and all of that. And how I got into it was I went to college for human biology. So I was working in a pathology lab full time, cutting up body parts and making slides and staining them and stuff. Real weird. But I started having kids. So I'd had my second kid, and just, I think, very similar story to lots of people. You start taking more pictures of them. And then I was encouraged, oh, you're such a good eye. Like, we've all heard that probably. So I got a camera and was just showing more and more, got asked to start doing sessions, and it just kind of, snowballed from there. I sort of found my voice. I'm from Kansas. That's where all of that happened.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When I met you, I was living in Kansas.
See, I back then had, and it's getting better, had a notoriously bad memory to the point where like I don't remember my wedding day, like that bad. And so it's amazing that I remember the food truck story and remember
The exact
the
conversation we were having.
yeah,
That's so
I think
funny.
it's because my memory specifically has to do with multiple things. Anything photography based, I can probably remember it,
Hmm.
but as long as it has something to do with the technology,
Yeah.
whatever like analytical side of my brain has the memory center, and then food. Brooke is notorious for being like, "Hey, remember that time when like we had this really beautiful moment?" And I'm like, "Nope, nope, nope." And we had an Italian burrata. I'm like, "Yes, that. I remember that day." And remember how
That's
it was
funny.
like the particularly creamy one? I do remember that.
That's
So,
hilarious.
so Kansas.
Yeah. Oh, so Kansas. So we decided to move to Florida because my husband is from here. So I just in that moment like felt like I was dying because there were all of these things that I wanted to do, all these like weird places I wanted to take photos and all of that, and I had never done it because I was just playing it safe with every session and going to the spot that I knew worked for everybody,
Yeah.
right? Um, so I was like, all right, well, I have to make it happen, and almost kind of approached it like this is the last shoot I'll ever do. So I wanted to make them all count. So I started styling them, like buying the clothes that I wanted to photograph and going to different places and going at different times of day. So I was playing with different types of light and stuff. And then that work started to get a lot of attention when I would share it online. Just, I think the family sessions were looking a little different than what people were shooting at the time. Um, so from there, I started to get to or people started asking like my approach or wanting mentoring and things like that. And then that led
Very
me
cool.
into education, and here we are.
That's awesome. I have always loved your your kind of I'm this may be too grandiose to say, but like the bravery of shooting in hard light, which maybe is just a necessity living in Florida.
Well, it was not necessarily Florida, but just having kids and wanting to photograph them when I was with them. And we were just together and having fun, like in the afternoon, a
Yeah.
lot of times the evenings are when I would be with clients. So I just really
Oh,
learned
interesting.
to, because I think a lot of times you get the advice to like, when every time I see somebody ask about harsh light, people tell them to go to the shade or
Yeah.
say to put the sun behind your subject. But I like to do it so that it's like you're using that direct light, which also, I mean, if you look at like high fashion, I feel like that's like a kind of light that they use a lot,
Oh, for
that
sure.
hard
And
light.
that was one of the things that originally drew me to your work, because that's something that we have also really been like at odds with kind of the kind of conventional wisdom in the photo world.
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
I have for years, like I didn't discover backlighting until like way too late in my career, and I still don't default to it. Like I see so many. I posted in your emotional
Yeah.
storytelling group when you did
Mhm.
the flare set. I was like, I looked through my like my cults, my like my favorites
And
list, and I was like,
nothing.
I found one, and it was like barely a flare. It was like on the edge of the frame, and I used it as a way to just be like, I don't do this very much, so here's the one. And then I like snuck in like six other photos that I loved from that set, because I've just, I like to describe shooting in the Midwest as hard mode, just because you have to I have to make a living with this. And when I really first got started, I had to shoot like mornings, afternoons, like maybe not high sun, middle of the day, but like I had to learn to shoot at the times that my couples, that my clients, my families were like available. Like I scheduled
Yeah.
one for a couple weeks from now, and like, yeah, of course I default to like, because we're moving towards this like very like calm sort of like blue hour sort of like introspective thing right now. And they wanted that, and I said like, here's the timing of it, and up this far north, it's like 9:45 is when we would be like at the middle of our session. And she's like, yeah, my kids can't stay up that late. I was like, that's fine. You're just not going to get that specific thing. So
Yeah.
rolling back, we have had to learn to shoot in anything. And I've used that as like something that I talk with all my clients. Like, I will give you my guidance on like the best time, but it doesn't matter. Like we can shoot whenever. We'll make it
Yeah.
work, and no matter what condition.
Yeah.
Do you have a similar thing, or do you try to go towards hard light, or do you try to go towards a specific like lighting now?
For clients.
Yeah.
For clients, I mean, I just kind of know what they want. So I feel like, I mean, I have two different types of things that I do. I have two different Instagrams for it. I have one
Right.
that's like my family stuff, where it's a lot more documentary, a lot more black and white, and a lot more like harsh light mixed in there. And then
Yeah.
there's client stuff, and I know that they, I don't know, kind of, I just feel like they want this more curated look that I am showing on my feed. And that's like a very dreamy feel. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like a feeling you can only get at sunrise or sunset. So
For sure.
I always just try to educate best I can. Like, if you want this and you want it to look like this, we have to do sunrise or sunset. We can do any time, but your photos will feel completely different.
That's interesting, and it's fun that you have it so like have like the barrier set between two Instagrams. You can be like, here are the two aesthetics. You can pick like
Right?
which at do you want?
Yeah.
That's
Well, and I just feel
fascinating.
like I shoot differently when I'm shooting in harsh light too, you know?
Oh yeah, for
It's
sure. It's a different vibe.
yeah, and documentary, it just suits documentary type photography so well
Yeah.
too, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, there's, I mean, some of my, I was thinking, kind of meditating on what this next season is going to look like. Actually, I was talking with a photo student a couple days ago about this, about how, we're all kind of just having to figure this out. I mean, I don't know about you, but I have a very specific, like, it's not like rigid, but I have a goal, like pretty much every January, February, March, I try to get out and like shoot something just like completely for myself. And I try to explore some sort of new avenue, whether it's like a different type of lighting, or if it's different like photo trick or technique or something, or editing
Yeah.
technique or trick. And I just haven't had a chance to do that now. Like I'm like off my game.
You have
And
a
I just,
baby.
well, yeah,
That
totally. So
changes everything.
our quarantine
That's your
also
new
started.
game. You've gotten like amazing, like those photos you've been posting, your daily project. Like, hi,
Yeah,
come do that for me. Come over.
yeah. All right. Well, every
That's
single
your
time I've
new
been in
thing. You did
Florida.
it. You did do it.
Oh shit. You're right. Oh man. See, and
Mm,
this is the thing. I don't ever really plan it. It doesn't happen like
yeah,
that. It just like rolls off organically. And I accidentally did it again. Thank you.
you
All
did.
right.
Hmm.
End of interview. I've gotten what I need out of this. That's all I need.
Accomplished.
Accomplished. Close. No, that's okay. I need to write that down, put it away. Daily
It's
is
recorded. You don't even have to write it down.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
No, I love the work that you've been doing. They're like all my favorite pictures.
I appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit behind. I've got a few weeks of Milo pictures to post on that account, but
It's so hard to catch up.
I here's I don't know if y'all are on Marco Polo right now, but I've got a bunch of threads going with people. And do you know this app,
No,
Twyla?
no.
It's kind
I'll
of like
download it.
FaceTime plus texting, or like it's like kind of like Snapchat but with a record. So like when you have a group chat going with somebody, like you record yourself. It's almost like that plus, or it's like that mixed in with voicemail. Emily Gates over here like taught me about it,
This
but
sounds like 10 things mixed together.
it is. It's so basically like, you record yourself. They get a notification, but they don't have to watch it live. They can, or they don't have to. And if
Oh,
you're
this is
watching
what I
it,
need. I mean, I do
yeah,
this with just my best friend. We send videos back and forth all the
you'll
time,
love
and we're
this
sharing
then.
TikToks and stuff from
Yeah.
Facebook. That's the idea. Okay. That's what I
So
needed.
Twyla, it's really awesome as a mom. Like when
Yeah?
you can't watch stuff live, yeah, like being a mom, it's a really good app for that.
Okay. I'm
I will
excited.
say this though, caveat: the thing that I find that doesn't necessarily work really well is, and my buddy David last night described it super well. You have to think of it like a conversation that's going on in the room, because if like your buddies are upstairs having a chat and you're not up there with them, don't try to catch up. You're not going to like walk into the room and be like, hi, fill me in on the last 45 minutes of this discussion. Instead, what you need to think of it as is like popping in and being like, hi, I'm here now. I'm replying to the last sentence, but I don't necessarily get to go back. It's there if you want to like refer to it. But what I was getting at is like kind of like culling and editing. I find that if I get super behind, I have to just like start over today. And I will eventually
Yes.
get to my backlog. But if you've got a month of backlog like daily photos, just go to today. If you're stoked about editing today's photos, don't stress yourself about yesterday's. Just start with today's. And
I think that that prevents a lot of people from even doing, sorry, I'm signing up for Marco Polo. I'm distracted now. But it, it prevents a lot of people from starting just because they feel so weighed down by, that's funny, we're making this comparison with Marco Polo, but,
well,
but you
it's the
know,
perfect
yeah.
analogy.
Yeah.
I will also say I've got a course in production on shooting daily photos and how
Oh,
to kind
that'll
of
be
like
good.
how to integrate that into your like professional workflow. And spoilers, the trick is to have two separate workflows that work in conjunction with each other, because if you are trying to intermix them, they'll get lost. If you're trying, like a lot of people's mistakes is they have this like really well ordered, like here where my client photos go, and then you don't even want to get started on your personal work because you like don't even know where to put them. Just like having something separate is like really, really valuable.
Yep.
Cool. So one of the things that I had written down, I want to know where the emotionality came from in this, because it's so integrated into the work that you have that I can't really tell if it came from like, were you just, are you just like a very like emotional person and that just like showed up in your work? Was it an intentional decision to like move from like normalcy to this? Did it come from the editing? Because I know you're such an editing geek.
So I am not an emotional person at all.
Interesting.
I'm not good at expressing my feelings. So I feel like maybe this is how I'm doing that. But I started, I mean, just the reason or like my approach in taking images of clients came from myself not wanting to do what was popular around me. So I'm from a very small town in Kansas, and it was a lot of mini sessions, which are fantastic, but it's a lot of like people sitting on hay bales, which I just wasn't very connected to, you know, like that didn't make me excited to take a picture. So I wanted it to always be like a little more, I don't know, adventurous and kind of real feeling. So as I kept taking photos and doing more and more sessions, I just found myself very drawn to those moments that I would find within the session. And I have always been an overshooter. I don't think I will ever be able to do it any other way.
What does that mean? How many do you shoot per session? Because I am also a notorious overshooter.
Like 2,000 or something for
There we go.
one family session.
Yep.
But that's how, I just don't think that I could have the same stuff to show if I didn't shoot so much. A lot of it I'm shooting through motion, and maybe it's just I'm not good enough to like have the motion in front of me to catch that like single slice. But you know, a lot of the times I'm shooting and I trust like my workflow so much now that I know I'll get the shot in there. I don't know that I got it. I don't know what it looks like, but I know when I come back to call, it's there, you know? I just know.
We got started. Sorry, go ahead, finish.
I know I can ask them to do a thing, shoot through it, and what I'm gonna need and fall in love with is within that set.
So I have an interesting problem. One, the reason we're overshooters is the first lens that Brooke and I both like fell in love with and had like fought over was the Canon 85 1.2, and that is a gorgeous piece of glass. But that 1.2 is such a razor fine depth of field that like
you have to. I think that same for me. I remember just shooting with my junky 51.8 and not even understanding. I was trying to shoot it like a 200 when I got it. Like I thought I'd be really far back and get all that compression, and you can't. But also everything was out of focus, and I didn't like get why.
Because you're probably shooting at 1.8 still, right?
Yes, yeah. So anyway, as I learned more and got more comfortable with it, I realized it was better to take 5 images, you know, so that you're 100%. For sure. And I don't think I've ever let go of that, like just wanting to make sure that I don't lose an image to being out of focus.
Plus, digital is cheap. I mean, you know, people make the comparison to compare to film, and it's not true that each photo is free, right? Like it does take your time. It takes data storage is not free. Cards are not free. Whatever.
Well, and your shutter is gonna go out a lot faster.
Right. But, you know, our cameras are consumable items. I think it's easy to forget that.
I plan to buy a camera every year. Like that's just part of my expenses. Yeah. I mean, I get them wet in the ocean. Like I'm really hard on them. So I just I've
always had this theory that like, I'd rather ruin a camera and get the shot then not feel comfortable getting that
Same.
shot.
We
So
are like the same shooter. Yeah.
yeah, except for this. You ready? I do not care to edit. I don't like editing. So when I do shoot my dailies, when I shoot client work that Brooke doesn't have any hands on, I am an over preparer when it comes to like, let's just move that thing in the background. Let's angle a little bit so the light is just right. All of our edit is done, is dialed into a point where like I can basically batch edit everything. I do batch edit everything, and then just tiny little tweaks on exposure and warmth and temp and tint. But so I do everything I can to spend as little time as possible on the computer, because
I
I
get
just
so
love.
messy though when I'm shooting, because I want those skies, so I end up having to do a lot of underexposing and then bringing in the skies. Of course, I'm
Totally.
getting into range masking and all of that in Lightroom.
We all
but
know
you can
love
batch edit that.
Can you really?
What?
I don't care to edit. The only editing that I do like built into our workflow is, again, my dailies, where it's mostly batch, and then I do all of the Photoshop like head swaps kind of stuff that Brooke doesn't really want to do. I was going to say though, when I shoot, especially families, but often portraits as well, because we do a lot with motion, we do a lot of like chaotic running and whatnot. Brooke does almost all of the editing, and you made a point of like trusting in your workflow, trusting your process. I have to trust her, which I do inherently, and I don't trust myself as much because I leave so many sessions going, I don't know if I got it. I loved that. I loved that composition. I loved the moment. I loved the lighting, but like, did I nail focus? Was this the face on everybody for all of them? And then Brooke is so good at like being kind, being like, yeah, you not like complaining that I overshot 1,500 pictures for a 45, 90-minute session.
Yeah.
But also just like pulling that magic out and making the work that I kind of chaotically generated turn into some like dark magic. I don't know how she does it.
I need a Brooke.
We all need a Brooke. I'm not good enough to have a Brooke, but somehow she's generous enough to stay with me and procreate and create humans with me.
I'm gonna steal her from you.
It's okay. You can borrow her. I mean, she's very kind. I'm sure she'd come hang out with you.
Okay.
We keep trying.
I know.
We're in
you
Florida.
were so close. Yeah.
I know. You're in Jupiter, right?
No. Fort Pierce.
Fort Pierce. Oh man, I do not know Florida enough.
Oh. It's all right.
So that brings us
3 hours from each other.
Yeah, Florida is a weird place. I mean, I enjoy my time down there when it is -20 here in Michigan, but it's definitely a different world. Can you talk a little bit about, speaking of Florida, speaking of Brooks and humans, can you talk a little bit about like the balance that you have between your work and your family? Because it does seem that your family is very, very important to you. You led this entire discussion by, hi, I'm Twyla, I'm a mom, not like, hi, I'm Twyla, I own a Canon 5D Mark 7. You're not even not gear focused, but like you seem to be like family focused, and then photography.
Yeah, I love all the gear. I will shoot literally anything. You can make like it doesn't matter. You can do something great with everything. I just taught a course on how to take better photos with your iPhone, and like I can't tell the difference between my iPhone photos and my camera photos sometimes. It's all just like finding the light, that makes it look amazing. So so I often think about like, damn it, I wish I could have gotten into photography before I had kids, because then I could be traveling everywhere I want. I could just spend all freaking day, dorking out on like learning how to do something new or making a class or whatever. But there's no way my work would look the way that it looks with kids. And I've also learned about myself, when I have all the time in the world, I won't get anything done. Like I'm going to go to the cidery and drink and go for a walk on the beach, right? Like if I don't have a deadline and if I don't have a limited amount of time to get something done, I will push it off until the next day, or think I can stay up all night and do it and then fall asleep and not do anything. So I think, well, one, they're like my biggest inspiration. I wish you could see them right now. They're like jumping on a surfboard in the pool.
Oh my God. That's the most Florida thing I've ever heard.
Right. They're so weird, but they're also like so loving. And so a lot of like the prompts and stuff that I use in my own sessions are things that I'm observing that bring happiness to my kids. Can you hear them screaming? They're screaming.
Oh, definitely. I love it. Do not
Screaming with
do
joy.
not stop them.
But you know, so I mean, that has made me a better photographer for sure. Just you know, watching their happiness and infusing that into my sessions. But yeah, also just having no time. So the kids go to school, and then the baby, when he was 6 months old, I started sending him because I'm like, I can't get anything done.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that's when Gary would be home, we'd walk down to the cidery downtown, have a couple drinks, and then stumble back home, or we'd go for a walk while the kids were at school. So we're just like living it up, you know, but that's when I should have been working, right? So now that the kids are home all the time, especially the baby who's like the neediest, he's 1, so he can walk now and is just into everything. I really have had to focus on time blocking to get my work done. And I've been working with an assistant for a long time that I don't have anymore. So now all of that, so now I have even more work. And I am more productive than I've ever been.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Have you heard, so I can't remember if this is, I'm a genius and I invented this, or if this is a like common like art theory.
I do that too. Like,
you're like,
genius. Do I need a patent that? Like,
am I inspired or inspiring? I can't figure this out. So there's an expression that I've used since art school, and I call it like the terror of a blank canvas, which is like that day when you wake up
too
and
many
you're like,
options. And...
I'm going to make something today. And you open your sketchbook, you pick up your camera, whatever, and you're like, I don't have any inspiration. And I feel like there is a motivator of like, I feel like there's a metaphor here where like there's a motivator of like, all right, I have 20 minutes. I have coffee. I have my computer. I have editing to do. Like, I'm going to get it done. Like that class has to go out like next week. And the next week is full of fill in the blank with baby stuff. And like, I've got 20 minutes. I'm going to get this done like now. Yeah, I think there's something really special there for sure. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So this is something that I wrote for myself because I'm dealing with this personally, and I'm just curious how you deal with this. Time blocking is a thing. I kind of talked about this on the last call or one of the calls recently. I have dealt with for a lot of my life with attention deficit disorder, and I'm like, I'm working on it. I have recently started taking a new medication, first medication I've ever taken in my life, and it's doing like wonders. I can't speak highly enough about it. I know it's not the solution for everybody, but as somebody who was like really against it for a long time, I'm just trying to be like an advocate for people. Like if it's something that you deal with and struggle with, like there are options out there. Talk to your doctor. Don't talk to me. Or you can talk to me, but don't expect a prescription from me, I guess is what I'm getting at. I'm just wondering, you talk about time blocking, which is really valuable, but then all of a sudden like those walls break down, and what does that happen, or are you like really firm on your blocks where like all of a sudden like you move into like a work block and like does everything else get shut down, or do you allow things to like bleed through?
Well, I have to, because my kids will try to kill themselves also, like while I'm trying to work on something. But I'm the same. I used to take medication, but then I started having kids and nursing them for like 5 years in a row or something. So I haven't been able to take anything for a really long time. So, it's like 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day, like that will really help. And then just being kind of like loose. So one thing that is really helpful for me is to not try to plan too many things in a day. So it's literally like looking at what needs done. So even making a list, writing, and I kind of try to categorize those. Like, this is my list of like education stuff I need to do. This is my list of things that need edited. This is my list of like shit I have to do for my family. So dentist appointments and go whatever. I don't know what you do, but so I've got like
poop
3
off the wall.
Yeah, so I've got 3 categories so I can see everything that needs done, and then I get a planner that I write in with my hand. I like that better. And then I have 3 blocks I can work during the day. The one first is the baby's first nap, which he's doing right now. He's great. He takes like a 2 or 3 hour nap, so it's a good block.
Milo's on 23 minutes right now. That's
then
what
he'll
he's working
take
on.
another nap, another like couple hours. And a lot of times if Gary was working that day, he'll be home. So maybe I could stretch that out a little bit longer. And then the third is after he goes to sleep at night.
Yeah.
And then I just try to do 1 or 2 things a day.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of big projects, but sometimes that's like email, and that can go all over the place for like one block, you know. And then by doing that, you'll feel more accomplished, because I think you start feeling discouraged if you didn't get everything done in a day and you have to carry it over to the next day, but that next day already has tasks in it. And that's kind of like what we talked about before, like having a backlog and just thinking you can't start a new thing because you have all this other stuff weighing you down. Like,
Totally.
Yeah. So it's just not expecting too much of yourself, so that you can like congratulate yourself for job well done. I did my 1 thing or 2 things that I had to get done today. And now and what's important too is being able to take a break and finish like your work, feel like your workday is done. So that third block is kind of like emergency block. I don't have to work when the baby gets done.
That's really smart.
When he goes to sleep. But I'm also, as I'm putting him to sleep, like doing something for myself, like maybe I'll watch a show because he sleeps with me, whatever. So I'll like watch a show while I'm doing that with him. So I feel like I have free time, and then I can just go to sleep, or I can do whatever I want. Right now I'm designing a new website, and when I decide I need a new website, I need that website done in 3 days. So I'm just
that feeling.
Powering through it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but that's what's working for me.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, Milo's on this really beautiful cycle of precisely 32 minutes right now. I don't know if it's like
sorry.
It's okay. He was doing like 90 to 2.5, and now the fact that it's like almost precisely 32 tells me that it's something like biochemical, and I just got to like let him do his thing. It's just going to be that way for a while. But yeah, there's a discussion, and so I've been doing the research on attention deficit disorder, and there is more than just the medication component. There is the mental health and kind of like meditation, exercise component. And one of the things that they talk about frequently is this wall of agony, or like wall of defeat or something like that, where you keep trying to like do that same task over and over again, and when you can't, you get distracted, you don't finish it, whatever, you're like adding a brick to this wall. And our culture teaches us that like you just got to power through, you got to get it done, and by beating yourself against this wall every time, you're just building the emotional layers of like the pain and agony tied to it. And so that's been my biggest flaw of the years. I'm finally learning is that I need to set reasonable expectations for what I can get done in a length of time, not go,
well, and then that's a good way for you to
know.
That's a good way for you to know if you do need to hire out and get an assistant for like, if there are things that are just taking up your day, but they're not like really paying the bills, you know, then you have to find somebody to help you out with that kind of stuff.
Oh,
or
agreed.
find more time in your day. It's one or the other. Yeah.
Which there's precisely 24 hours in a day, and so if you can't extend that, and if you're out of minutes in the day, then
or get somebody to watch your kids to give you more time or something. But when I started looking at the time in the day I have and realizing my baby is sleeping 5 or 6 hours a day, or I pay a lot of money for him to go to daycare, like I'm still getting that time. It's just not all in a row, which is probably better for me to have a break.
Yeah, there's something really valuable about that. I will admit that when he goes down, I do feel a little bit of a pressure to like just complete. And then I notice him get up, and there is something of like, I'm just going to take a pause on this. Like this project is almost done anyway. Put a bow on it, go hang out with the family, spend some time with them. I'm wondering if in the long run it'll be a positive sort of like evolution. But I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm still neck deep in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So I was digging through your website, and the website that probably needs to be redone. And one of you wrote something in there that is like absolutely beautiful. I love it. I think I understand it, and I want you to weigh in on what it means. Photographs that do more than serve as proof that you existed.
So that goes back to when I was talking about the mini sessions and I love those, for what they are. But a lot of times it's like, here we are, we were happy on Easter.
Mm.
Here we are. Or like, it's my
We're
first
happy
day
on
of
a hay bale.
school. It's just like, here I am. This is what I look like on Easter day. This is what I
Yeah.
look like on the first day of school. So I want them to be, you know, I mean, honestly, to like be storytelling images. They say something about the bond that you shared with the person in your life. My family's throwing shoes at each other now, like dad and children.
I
This is
love
my
that.
story. I wish you
Yeah.
were here and you could get a photo of that. The shoes midair, flip flops
We'll make it
midair.
happen.
Anyway, but yeah, that's what it's about. You know, just showing that there was more to it than you just like being there with a happy face. And I love the idea of capturing images that are more than just we're happy together and we're kissing, you know, kind of exploring more dynamics, like,
Yeah.
because I think I don't know, like the interest in any story is I can't think of the word I want.
Humanity.
I don't know. No. And there's several words for it and I can't think of any of them. I'm so distracted by these guys, like doing whatever they're doing.
Is the
out
word
there,
shoe throwing?
Oh,
Emily says Emily says turn your camera to the pool. We have to see it.
Okay.
Just a peek.
Let's see if I can get them. I don't see any shoes in the air right now, but they might have stopped. Okay. Gary's just back there drinking his vodka drink. None of them have shirts on ever. Oh, dang it. You just missed a shoe. Sorry.
It's okay.
But anyway, it's not like every story isn't a happy story. And that's a very boring story to tell over and over again. And I do see that with a lot of photographers, just kind of, I was answering a question about that last night, just thinking that every session is starting to look the same. Mm-hmm. But of course, when you're just posing and prompting the same kind of story over and over, like hug each other, hug each other, hug each other, give a kiss, you know, as an artist, you might start to lose interest and that might start to become a little bit boring to you. So if you can think of like even other types of emotions to prompt from people and to focus on, then
I don't know about you, but I have that. I definitely have that feeling, and it usually happens towards the end of a season for me, where even if I'm experimenting with something new, even if I'm working on something emotive or working on something that I feel is like very artful, I still like, I have this really weird, like deep-seated like gag reflex of like, I call it like aversion to schmaltz, where like, I don't know if people know that word. It's like towards like hokey or corny. And I worry by the end of the season that like when I've asked someone to do the same thing, even if it's like emotionally powerful, or even if it is like something like compositionally interesting, I'm just like, ugh, I've done this so many times, I'm so over it. So I don't know how somebody can do the same sort of like grip and grin photography for 30 years. Some people, this is a business.
But a lot of times, so exactly, and it's about making your clients happy, and of course, like that, those are the kinds of images they want. But I think like it's finding the balance between the fulfillment of like, you know, your client's happiness and your own to keep you passionate about doing what it is that you're doing. So some of the time you have to just take time in those sessions to create for you. And
one of the things we did really early on, the first kind of like breakout thing that we had in our career was our high school seniors, and we started to do them, like the work that we started to show was this sort of like quiet, introspective, fairly emotive, fairly artful. And the way we got there originally was just, I'm so bored of this. I'm enjoying beautiful people, kind people in a beautiful location on a dune at sunset, not backlit. And it was checking all the boxes of like something that every photographer, getting paid well, being in the right location at the right time with interesting, beautiful people, like it was checking all the boxes, but I was just like bored of it.
It's too easy.
It's too easy.
You need a challenge.
So, 100%. So what we ended up doing was just taking, we call it 10% time. You know, you shoot 90% for the client, and then at the end, or like at some point when it feels right, you go, can we just do something weird for a minute? Like I want to do that, and it might not work. Permission for it to be awful. And what you're saying is like, you might never see it.
Yes, yeah. Oh,
might
those
love
are
it.
always the ones they ask about, though. So, did that like weirdo thing turn out, or
See, I do, but now I
dinosaur?
do it enough, and I play act it enough. I throw like 3 or 4 of those out there enough that they don't know which ones are the weird ones anymore. If you do it just once, they're gonna ask about it. But if
Yeah,
you do it like 3 or 4 times, they're gonna be like, it's just gonna roll into the session, because
yeah.
now all of our stuff looks so weird when you see a full set. I was gonna ask because well, I'm gonna use a transition to get to that question, but talking about like straight documentation, straight up sort of like this is what I look like in this time. We call those the grandma pictures.
Yeah.
Specifically at weddings, we'll be like, we're gonna go get these like beautiful, heartfelt, introspective moments, and then your grandma would be very sad if that was all we got, because she's gonna be like, why aren't you
Where's your
smiling? You can't.
face? Yeah.
So we call those the grandma pictures, and specifically with our wedding clients, we're very particular about like, this is what we're known for, but I'm going to send you like a full session because I want you to see those ones so that you can confirm that your grandmother, your nana, your mima, whatever, is going to be like jazzed to see your photos as well.
Yeah.
Uh, which is transition into, I feel like our part of the wedding industry is like our part of the photo industry is aggressively wedding. And I love that your work is so focused on families and kind of like the angle that you have. I know there's plenty of like incredible like family photographers out there. I just feel like I see so much weddings. And is that a decision that you made? Is it the same sort of like, I was just photographing my family and so it kind of came from that, or?
Well, so I did what a lot of us do and tried everything at first, and did my fair share of weddings, but I just felt like, I think too much of it was like kind of boring for me. Like photographing the stuff. And maybe I just never found my way to shoot it. I didn't give it enough of a shot. But
I'm
also,
sure that's true.
what came with it is, well, a couple of things don't work well with my personality. I don't like timelines, and I don't like to be rushed to do
Mm-hmm.
something. So of course that's like a lot of what a wedding day is, having to follow a schedule. And
Right.
and also I would feel a large amount of stress leading up to the wedding day, because again,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a day that I can reschedule if I like don't feel good or something, if I get like super sick, or like if something
Just not
happens
into it.
to, yeah, I just don't feel like it that day.
I don't really want you guys to get married today. Can we do it tomorrow?
I never reschedule shoots, especially not because I don't feel like it. But
I'm just kidding.
but also, like if something happens to your camera, I just like associate a lot of stress with a wedding day. Like I feel like a tremendous amount of pressure, and I don't like to work like that at all.
For sure.
A family shoot, like if it rains or something, we can reschedule for the next morning, or whatever. Even if I lost all those images, like it's just very easy to duplicate, like, and have another great session for them, because it's not like this one moment that's never going to happen again. So for all those reasons, I just like, I don't like having the stress of a wedding day looming. I didn't even have, I mean, we're not even really married, but we had a ceremony, but somebody else planned the whole thing. Like we didn't even pick our rings out, I just,
Whoa.
yeah.
Well, that means it's obviously like not critical to who you are as a couple, who you are as a person, that like, it makes sense that you wouldn't be drawn to photographing that thing.
Yeah. And I did notice though, so I did do, I think I shot one more wedding after we had our ceremony, and it was a little better for me because I totally understood how to draw emotion out any time of the day. Like I could like make anybody cry any moment I wanted because I got it, like I had to have that experience for myself. It's kind of like having the family, like I get it. And so it's easy for me to photograph families. So maybe as like I go through different stages of my life, I'll grow more interested or get better at different types of photography. Newborn photography, well, I don't think will ever click for me, like the pose style.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
I find that hard.
We shoot that very lifestyle. They really don't look anything dissimilar from our family portraits, and we don't do a ton of them. But when we do, hi.
Gary's gonna make me a drink, I think.
Ooh,
I feel
hi
like
Gary.
that's what he was asking me. I don't know, maybe not. He's saying no. I don't know why he's showing me his drink then.
He's just bragging. He's like, look, I have a
He's
drink and you
bragging,
don't.
yeah.
Yeah, we shoot them very lifestyle. Again, they don't look that dissimilar from our family photos. The only difference is that I'll often do like just a few pictures of like the kid on the bed or like in like home environment. But I can totally see not being drawn to certain avenues, and I think it's refreshing to hear people. I think both sides of this coin are refreshing to hear. A, that you can shoot everything. You don't just have to. Oh,
Hey,
hold on.
Hollywoods.
That you don't have to just shoot weddings to be a good photographer in 2020. But that also, like, if you're drawn to something, anything, you can shoot whatever you want, and that can be
Yeah,
like part of your personality and part of your brand, kind of all mixed together.
yeah.
Interesting. So I'm going to jump into I've got some community questions from Facebook group, from Instagram. There's basically like two big ones. The first one is like, how did you find your editing style?
So I really connected with it. So I did my first shoot and loved what I captured for them, but I was like not fulfilled with the editing. Like I slapped on some preset I found, and I was like, oh, I know this could look better, but I don't know how to do that. So I started learning a lot, and I actually did two things after that shoot. I bought an off-camera light setup because I knew that would get me the look that I needed. And then I also started taking an editing course. Have you ever heard of Damian Simmons? I think is his name. He's like a gymnast, or used to be a gymnast or something too.
Whoa.
But he teaches a really great editing course, but it's actually for Photoshop. But what those two things did was it helped me learn what it was I liked in editing, as far as the style that I liked, and help me to see the light differently so that I could shoot it like that. So I didn't have to take this crazy light setup with me, like through the woods and stuff. No, I don't use off-camera flash anymore.
I was surprised to hear that you're using off-camera flash, and it makes total sense that you learned via the editing route to do your lighting the way that you like to, which is just
so that I could edit the way I wanted. And then with the editing, what I was doing is I was spending so much time, like I was doing it all. I was doing frequency separation, dodging and burning, doing everything in Photoshop. So I was still overshooting, taking a lot of photos, but I accidentally got a text message from a mom. I'd done her senior photos to like the friend. She sent it to me instead. Loved the photos, but really thought there'd be a lot more. And it was because I was spending so much time editing in Photoshop that I couldn't give them more. And I'm still working a full-time job too. So
how many were they receiving at that point?
Like I think 25 images, and a lot of times like we would move around so much. Like in that session in particular, a senior session, it was literally like a photo from each setup, like one or something, you know. So I wasn't feeling good about that. So I knew
they didn't necessarily know that that you were spending so much time on it, right? The client doesn't see the
they
edit
just
at
know
all.
They were there for a whole day of taking images, and then I also I did a wedding. And so then doing that wedding and having to turn around so many images, I knew I had to learn a different way to edit, because there's no way I could give them the number of images they should have. Yeah, I can't give you 25 for a whole wedding day. So I had to figure out how to apply what I learned about Photoshop and light and be able to do that quickly in Lightroom. So so I just like really kind of started deconstructing like anything I'd learned about Lightroom and going through the sliders and like really learning how they were working together to produce different looks and all of that. And then just kind of ended up.
Oh, he did bring you one. It's beautiful.
What a nice guy. So he made his own lemonade yesterday. Somebody brought us a bunch of lemons from their tree. So he and the kids made lemonade out of those, and then he went and got some vodka.
That's amazing. I want that so badly right now.
Oh, it's really good.
Yeah, keep bragging. It's fine. I assume a lot of that stuff that you learned, that you kind of like self-taught, is that kind of wrapped up in your your editing courses that you have?
Yeah. So I was doing a lot of editing mentoring, and I'd made presets, but feel like I'm always going to have a problem with presets.
Same.
I made them because I was asked for them, but the presets that I use in my own work constantly evolving as my tastes change and as I shoot differently or whatever. So I've never found anything that's going to work for me forever because my look's going to change. I don't know.
Right.
But anyway, I just feel like it's limiting too. And I would rather teach you to fish than, right? So I want to teach people how to like decide what it is they love in an edit, whether that's light and airy or dark and moody or fucking brown, whatever this brown thing is we do.
Fucking brown.
Decide what that is that you like, and then this is what you do in Lightroom to make that happen. So basically I want you to be able to look at like any image and look at the edit on it and know exactly what you got to do in Lightroom to make that happen for yourself. And then I also think it's great to be able to teach photographers how to make their own set of presets so that they can sell them. And a lot of people have gone on to develop their own presets and sell them to make an extra income, because that's so important. And I really learned that during the virus thing. Like, I was pretty unfazed, fortunately, as far as money goes. And Gary actually normally doesn't work. I make all of the money for our household. So that I was still able to have money coming in because I make money doing other things in photography. I'm not going to, God, so many analogies, but I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. You know, I need to have money coming in from all different.
You don't want to put all your shoes in one pool.
I want to put all my shoes in one pool. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely see a lot of transition towards online. I mean, this community itself has evolved with these interviews, coming from a group that met face to face once a month, and I was working on expanding to different markets. We were the reason we were in Florida is my in-laws are in West Palm, and I was in communications to set up photo walks in West Palm Beach, and among some other places. And nope, that's not happening. So this literally just came up from people being like, hey, I'm stressed. I haven't like seen another human being in 4 days. Like specifically when someone said like, my girlfriend's leaving to go back downstate, and I won't get to see her for a while. And so I'm going to be alone for like the foreseeable future. I just miss everybody. And I was like, let's just meet up. Let's just get up on Zoom. And so that evolution of business is, I think, really important, really valuable. It's not the way we want things to be right now, but a reminder to everybody that your business will evolve. This is an aggressive and a dramatic version of that, but even just editing tastes change. You might need a camera because people expect higher resolution or whatever. Things are going to evolve.
Yeah. So
the last question from the community was, there's like 4 points to this, so feel free to dig in on any of them, or if you feel like you've already hit one, don't have to rehash. How do you achieve such emotional and candid photos? Favorite lens, any shooting tips, and what drives you to shoot?
Okay, so favorite lens first. I've shot with the 35 forever. Most all of my work is done with the 35, but I have two other favorites. So I love the Nikon 45 tilt shift, which actually isn't called a tilt shift. It's called, do you know?
No, I'm not a Nikon.
So I teach at Clickaway every year, and a lot of times Nikon comes and they'll like clean your cameras for you and stuff. And I was in there talking about a tilt shift and got reprimanded by one of like the Nikon guys, like that there is no Nikon tilt shift. It's called something else.
Is it like a Canon branded maybe,
it's actually called something else. Let me look it up. Anyway, but I love that lens. I bought it. It's an expensive lens, but I was just like, well, this is going to be my dream lens because I love dreamy images and I have to get it. And then I did not touch it for a whole year because I was so intimidated by it.
Yep.
And then I also just feel like sometimes with new gear, you don't want to take it out to your next client shoot because you need to get comfortable with it, and I just wasn't doing it. So
I don't always feel comfortable having.
Calls it tilt shift lens, but
interesting. I don't necessarily feel comfortable relying on kind of like demo equipment or like new equipment for somebody that's paid, you know, a great deal of money for me to be there and be creating in front of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So anyway, one day I just got over it. I'm like, I gotta figure this out. So I got on YouTube and it was like, oh, it's that freaking easy. And then one time I just like, I had a session coming up. It was a maternity shoot and I did the whole thing. And I made a video and I shot the whole thing on the tilt shift and it was really awesome. So from there it became a lot easier for me. And then I also recently got the Nikon 58mm lens, which is beautiful.
I've never understood why Nikon's focal lengths are such weird numbers. Like why 58? Isn't it like a 56 also or something, or a 54 or something?
Oh, I don't know. I know about the 58 though, and I really love it. It's really nice.
So according to NikonUSA.com, the 19mm f4 is the PC Nikkor 19mm f4E-ED.
Well, and the 45 is the one I shoot specifically, and it's got that same kind of name. But I feel like there's like maybe some of those letters stand for something else, and that's how they're referring to their tilt shift. But I mean, if it's in the description of B&H, like give me a break, man.
Yeah. Don't make me feel bad for using the name that everybody else uses.
Yes. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Okay, so I forgot all the other questions.
That's cool. This is just what drives you to shoot? Like what's a core reason that like you get up in the morning and like grab your camera?
Oh, what a good question. I don't know. It's like and it's twofold too, because it's different for my clients than what I'm like capturing with my family and stuff. With my clients, it's just because a lot of times I don't feel like shooting. I don't like to leave my house. Like I've been fine quarantined in the house.
I hate to say it, but I agree, man.
I don't ever want to go anywhere. I'm very happy here. But I make myself go, and then it's like an immediate charge of energy, and then I never want to leave once I'm there. So that feeling, of course, and then just I don't know, that like rush you get when you like get that shot, because like especially here, I'm so glad that we moved to Florida, because it just feels so epic, like to be at the ocean, and especially when it's like a windy day, and then like you got a little bit of sunshine, but you got some clouds, like just being out there in it. It's like an excuse to go be out there in it, but you also get to create something as well. So it's beautiful. Like, look at this, like proof that I like had this beautiful moment with these like amazing people. And then they get to love it too, because they're like in it. So it like means something to them, and you're the one that made it for them, It's
fascinating.
Yeah.
You haven't been up this far north, have you? Have you been to northern Michigan?
No, and I am dying to come, because you guys have some great sand dunes. I mean, I don't know where you are specifically, but like, Florida's so flat.
I live 30 minutes from the sand dunes.
You do?
That's where you should. You're welcome anytime.
When I have the all clear. It's like you could come to Florida right now. Like Florida's been open the whole time. Like
yeah, Michigan's opening back up, but it's not like, I wouldn't call it safe yet. So I'm like 35 minutes from like some of my favorite shooting spots right on the dunes. And I grew up so this is my house. My parents' house is 10 blocks that way. And I grew up like right down there. I didn't love it in the beginning, but now with having a baby, I love it. So growing up here, like I took our, like, we have a freshwater ocean, right? You look out and you don't see the coastline on the other side. So when I growing up here, I took it all for granted. I did not love it being here. I had access to a small version of a national park, like 20-30 minutes from my house. And I did not go there at all. And so I have the same exact thing. It is my excuse to be out there constantly. I drive out.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I talk to so many people that, like a really good friend of mine who's even a photographer has only seen the sunrise 2 times in her life. And I'm like, what?
Whoa.
Because it's like I don't know, just the best time of day. Like anytime we have somebody visit, we go watch the sunset. And then a lot of my sessions, because I'm on the east coast of Florida, I prefer sunrise because the sun's coming up over the water.
Same.
Um,
Well,
so anytime I
we're
can,
mostly on the other side, so.
oh yeah, anytime I can get somebody up for sunrise, it's just, well, and they always say it's like a magical time of day. Sunrise is so different from sunset. Everybody's up for sunset. Everybody wants to see a sunset. Not as many people get up to watch a sunrise. So there's that feeling as
What time
well,
is your what time is your
amazing.
sunrise though?
I don't, it might be like 6:30 or 7 right now. It's like a very reasonable time. I mean, a little less reasonable if you have to get yourself ready, but the beach is like 5 minutes from my house, so it's
I very infrequently shoot sunrise. I would love to do it more, but I I just had a family that wanted that vibe this morning, and I told them, you know, sunset that week that you want is like 4:50. Like I'm not, I'll do it. Mostly because Milo usually gets up about 4:00. So I'm like,
once you have a baby, it just doesn't matter.
I'll just not go back to
I'm
sleep.
up
It's
anyway.
fine.
Yeah.
But
No, it's 6:11 here right now. Or
see, that's so much
6:01.
more reasonable than like, you know, before 5:00.
Yeah. Well, on certain times of the year, it's literally like 7:00. Like I feel like a month or two ago, it was more like 7. But anyway, it's just like the most magical time of day, I think. And the more, I'd say this too, like the more you can have these like amazing, beautiful moments in your life, like the more you are seeking out stuff like that, the more you're going to have to get, the more of that is going to come out of you. Yeah. So if you feel like you're in a rut, or you feel like, you know, you're not making like inspired work or whatever, like the best thing you can do is like stop watching Netflix or something and just go experience more beauty, you know, whatever beauty is to you, or, you know, whatever it is you need in your life. If it's like weird, like hang out with kids more, you know, even if they're not your own, but just infusing that in your life so that it is coming back out of you.
I listen to a lot of podcasts with comedians, and so I'm not going to remember exactly who said this. It was either like Eddie Murphy or like Jerry Seinfeld, who said that comedians are only as funny as long as they're still riding the bus to work. The idea that like your and their art is their experience and their relation to other humanity. And to say that you're like, you know, on your private jet and you're going to be like writing human stories that people can relate to isn't going to happen. So the inverse of that, or I guess the metaphor brings it to us, which is to say that you need to be like, if you want to be creating beautiful work, you need to be like in the places that you want to be. Like,
and I have to say that, like, for my family too, like, is another reason why they're so important to the work that I produce. Because if I didn't have them, if I didn't have Gary making me leave the house to go do like something epic or crazy or whatever, I'd literally stay in my office all day just working. You know what I mean? I need 100%. Somebody to like drag me out to go do that. And if I didn't have clients like needing me to schedule them and go experience sunrise with them, I would see a lot fewer sunrises for sure.
Oh, for sure. I catch myself in the middle of the busy season being frustrated that I'm like, I got to get up early again, or I'm going to be out late till like, you know, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock with the drive home tonight again. And I always have to like slap myself emotionally and just be like, you are like, for the 5th time this week, driving out to a place that people spend an entire season saving up their money to go vacation there for 3 days. And you're going out again for the 5th time to watch the sunset with a couple or a portrait that like, that spent good money on you to be there. Like, not only are you going there, you're getting paid to be there.
Paid to do it, yeah.
Unfreaking real. And like, honestly, kind of unfair. So don't complain, get your shit together and like, have fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, I want to do 2 things now. I want to open up for you if there's anything that you want to plug, if there's any like class you're working on that's almost done, or place you want to send people if they're interested in like your editing course and stuff like that. And I can get that, you know, specific links from you afterwards. You don't have to, you know, https:// Twyla is amazing.
Well, it's easy. So I talked a little bit about the editing course. It's called Embracing the Storm. Just go to emotionalstorytelling.com. It's under education. Cool. And that walks you through everything from like safely backing up your files, making Lightroom work really fast so you can cull super fast so you don't have to use Photo Mechanic anymore. And, you know, everything I talked about already. And then I'm working on a class on finding your voice. I have a great workbook out for that already in the shop at the
Emotional storytelling.
website. Yeah. But I'm going to turn that into a class because I just see so many people having that issue, like just feeling stuck in a rut or creatively unable to like produce what they want. I'm working on some posing classes. I'm thinking about a class teaching people to teach. Is that like meta? I don't know. But
no,
it's just because it's so important. And it's been so important to my income, like being able to do that. And I just think like everybody has something worthwhile to teach. It doesn't even necessarily have to be, you know, photography related, like whatever you're into and passionate about, like even if it's like propagating plants or something, the more you share with that and you're finding it resonates with people and it's helped them, you can turn that into a class and make income for yourself. So
no,
I think
that's
that
awesome.
might be nice.
I love this sort of like democratized or like kind of, we're at a point where like I don't necessarily how do I say this, like when I talk to my seniors, I don't necessarily always suggest going to college, because if you're interested in something that you don't need a degree for, like there are so many people out there that you can learn that craft from in an environment that might actually be more to your specific learning style.
College was hard for me to get through.
Same until I found the art department, until I found you know, just mushy, emotional, dorky, let's go paint and take pictures kind of stuff. Like I did not do well in history and math and science. That was just not not how my learning style works. I'm going to reach out to you about that specifically because I've got some thoughts. We'll talk off the air about that because I've got some questions for you for sure. Kind of in that realm. And then Emily Gates wrote, when you come up to see me, you can stop in
love
Murphy.
her. I met her at a workshop I did in North Carolina. She was wonderfully
rehab?
Weird. Yes. And she was like dancing. Like those are my like best memories of her. And I just like wanted to be around her all the time after that. And never have been again, but.
Oh, she's one of my favorite human beings on the planet. She's visited us up here once, and we visited her in Murphy maybe like 3 or 4 times. You know, we were going down to, the reason that Brooke was at that workshop is because we had been going to Asheville for like 5 or 6 years running. And so when we go down there, we try to meet up with Emily as often as we can. Her and her kids are just like, or and Chad as well, some of the greatest human beings on the planet. Unless anybody's got like specific questions, if you want to jump on, you've got a question, you know, unmute yourself, jump in. I think I'm pretty good, Twyla. If there's anything else you want to plug, you're welcome to. If there's anything else you want to chat about, I'm still here. But I really appreciate you spending your time with us. It's been
Thank
good.
you. It was so nice.
Yeah, same.
I love your little camera setup also with the lights behind them.
Oh yeah.
I like want to make something like that. Yeah.
I know. These are just like little. That's a little LED one, and then this one is like
I have one of those. A video light. I have that exact one.
I found that these like really.
I just bought those.
Yeah, they're great.
And I bought those. You know, how do you say it? Unogo? The cheap ice lights. Cheap versions of ice lights off Amazon, but they don't come with batteries, so I had to buy that battery.
All right, I don't know what you're talking about, but I love the ice light, and I've never been able to rationalize
the ones I got
cost.
change colors and stuff. There's just a little dial, so you can change all the colors.
I'm gonna need a link to that. I'll put that in. After these, I always put together like some show notes, so I want to put that in there as well. So
yeah, they're awesome.
Cool. Well, let's talk after this.
Okay.
I've got some questions for you, and I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.